Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's session. Our webinar today is titled A Model for Parent Engagement, Social Media and Student Data Privacy. My name is Firas Addas. I'm with the education team at Microsoft Canada. We do appreciate you taking time of your day to listen to the story of Riverview School District and Vidhigami's media management solution. Vidhigami provides a private social platform designed to empower the use of media in education, as well as keep millennial parents engaged in the student experience. Today, we have Christopher, Director of Information Technology at the Riverview School District in Washington State, and Mandy Chan, founder and president of Vidhigami based on Vancouver, sharing with us their views on the role of media in education and the district's need to standardize on a solution that manages media and data privacy for a generation of students and families who rely on Instagram and Facebook to communicate. A few housekeeping points. This session is being recorded and will be made available for on-demand viewing post-webinar. A link to the recording will be in the thank you email you will receive shortly. For your questions, feel free to type them in the Q&A box during the webinar at the bottom of the screen. For our presenters will try to address them towards the end of the session. For viewing preference, you can resize videos by dragging the bottom right corner of the presentation to set viewing to your pleasure. At a point of time, Vidhigami will be showing you a demo of the platform. Your media player will pop up. You can resize that window as well. Finally, a survey will appear for you to give us feedback on how we did. And now, without further ado, I'll leave you with Mandy Chan. Mandy?
Thank you, Firas. Thank you. Thank you to the Microsoft Education team for hosting us today, and thank you for taking the time to join our webinar. So my name is Mandy, and I'm the founder of Vidhigami. And as with most EdTech founders, we're inspired by our personal desire to affect change in education. And for me, that's having some visibility into that school experience. And Vidhigami is how I see that experience coming to life. So we hope after this session, you'll walk away with some valuable perspectives on the strategic role of media in education. And if we manage this asset well, it'll help enrich the school experience for everyone in the community. Chris is going to kick us off by sharing his views and experience. Then I'll be back to walk through some of the key features and functionality of the Vidhigami system. And off to you, Chris.
Thank you, Mandy. Good morning, good afternoon, I guess, to everybody. A little bit about myself first. My name is Chris Collins. I am the Director of Information Technology here in the Riverview School District. We are about 15 miles outside of east of Seattle. I've been here probably 13 years now. The first half of my career was spent in technology in the private sector. So part of my work here as the Director of Information Technology is to build solutions that really integrate technology into student learning, and that is our focus. As Mandy said, agenda for the day, we'll just talk a little bit about Riverview School District. We'll talk about Vidhigami within Riverview School District, hand it back over to Mandy, and then hopefully some Q&A from everyone. So as I said, Riverview School District, we are a fairly small community. We serve about 3,300 students. Our vision is to become a national model of educational excellence, and our mission is quite simple: to educate children. I have the opportunity to sit on the superintendent's cabinet as a director. Not a lot of school districts are afforded that opportunity to have technology represented at a cabinet level in a school district. So I get to really contribute to the thinking and, most importantly, we offer, we do a 5-year strategic plan here in Riverview, and that plan gets revised every year. So I had the opportunity to meet Mandy back in October, I guess it was, and that fell right in line with the time that we were beginning the revisions to our strategic plan. I am very passionate about student data privacy. And while we have some policies in place, I believe it's time to refresh them to get things up to speed with the significant impact that social media has on society as a whole, not just education. So we are revising our student policies, and I saw an opportunity to integrate the privacy component of Vidagami. And then I'm going to just take you step by step through build and work with people and design solutions for technology and education. It always starts with why. Our why is simple. It's student learning. And how that happens is through privacy and engagement. So when we think about what we're trying to achieve with this product, it is student privacy and student engagement. And we decided how we're going to do this, or what we're going to do, is through a product called Vidagami. I talked to Mandy a couple weeks ago, and we came up with a little acronym, a ton of acronyms in public education. Privacy, integration, and connection are the ones for me. So I thought it was kind of cute with the pic component and the pictures of Vidagami. So our focus is privacy. How can a tool be integrated, and what connections can we make with this product? So on that note, here's a quick poll question we'd love for the audience to jump in on here, and that is: has your school or district adopted privacy policies related to photo use and sharing? So if you wouldn't mind just kind of coming on in and submitting some answers.
Chris, while we wait for their answers, do you require your families to sign a photo release form at the beginning of each school year?
Not at the beginning of each school year, but when students are registered in district. So we obviously have our local community, but just like every school district, you got those families coming in. So any sort of any new students to the district go through a very formal process and that's stored in our student information system if there's any sort of opt out or anything like that.
Okay. Is that updated annually, or is it just when they register into the district?
At this time, we do not update annually, but this is, again, it's a great question, Mandy. That's really part of how we can, adopt more modern policies surrounding student privacy. And we are governed by it. There are state regulations. It's just I find that there's a lag between, I've always said this: technology moves at a rate faster than we can adapt, right? And I think that's actually compounded and exponentially in an educational setting. Mm-hmm. So it's good to have these reviews. So looks like we got some answers here, and it looks like a lot of people have already adopted some privacy policies related to photo use and sharing, which is great. So if we look here, this just gives you a little glimpse at what Vidagami is going to look like here in Riverview School District. So we actually have 7 schools and our district office. So what this does, we're able to integrate the data from our student information system, and that allows us to connect parents to students, and then we're going to connect teachers to their classes and students, and ultimately the teachers to other parts of the building. So having a safe and secure place that's integrated with our Office 365, that's integrated with the LMS system we're developing and getting ready to deploy, we're bringing everyone. This is the connection part. The privacy is inherent there. And each user that comes in, whether staff, student, parent, is going to be linked directly to the schools that their children are associated with, that they're associated with as a staff member. So I'm going to see what you're seeing here is kind of that global view, right, where I'm an administrator of the system, so I'm getting to see everything from everywhere. Vidagami has a very powerful tool to integrate both Vimeo and YouTube videos where we're not pushing people out to those public platforms, but it is a valuable platform from a public lens, right? So our superintendent likes to do monthly broadcasts. We're able to channel that now rather than pushing people out to YouTube for that resource. We can actually channel that right through Vidagami and deliver it right to staff, students, and parents. And then when we talk about a parent-student connection, this is the dashboard I land at when I go in as a parent. So we could have 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 photos collected up here through the facial tagging that's happening with Vidagami. Where I land, I immediately land, and it's a connection to every picture that has my daughter in it. And so that's a really powerful connection we can make. I think it gives parents a lens into what's happening in the educational setting. We do a lot of fun stuff here in Riverview, a huge art program, CTE program, the Rube Goldberg Project. So being able to have all this media and connect it and let other teachers see what's happening in other buildings, connecting the parents to it. It's just extremely powerful. We talk about engagement when we talk about parents involved in the educational setting. Not only can they see pictures of their own student, but they can see any albums associated with their grade level or their class. So this is an example where, you know, we're big on that personalized learning component. So when a parent gets to see a teacher working one-on-one with a student in real time, sent right to their cell phone, that's a really, really powerful connection and engagement tool. And really, I think there's enough evidence out there that shows how parent engagement in public education, and education as a whole, has better results for the students. So, as I said, part of my work and what I'm here to talk about is an integration approach to a solution like Vidagami. So I always look for avenues to deploy tools like this. So one of the things that we're doing is we're using digital signage in each of our building offices. And what we're able to do is collect those images, create what we call a media set within Vidagami, and then wirelessly project that to the digital signage in each building. What's neat about that is we're capturing all these really unique highlight moments that are happening specific to the school, and then just creating a media set and sharing that out over to the across the network to the digital sign, and that just connects the parents coming into the office. You know, kids get to see themselves on a big screen. That's a pretty special feeling. So that's one approach we're taking to the integration. We're going to use that same concept with that, what I just call kind of dynamic imaging and dynamic slideshows. So we're going to a completely new web rebuild, a web presence for all of our schools this summer, looking for a launch in that September timeframe. So being able to use that same data, the webmasters, where all this data now is housed in one place and then dynamically shared across resources. So it's really going to streamline a lot of things for us. As I said, you know, delivering the superintendent's message and connecting people through YouTube or Vimeo. We've got a lot of clubs. We do a lot of live streaming. And we're also very big on our professional development here for teachers and professional learning. So if we're able to video and capture, you know, a professional learning session, we're able to share that back through, and again, it gives the teachers a lens into some professional development that's going on maybe in another building. And if we choose to, we can push that out and make it available to parents as well. So as I mentioned before, you know, I think a lot of districts now are beginning the process or have long adopted an LMS. We have been working with a particular product called Schooler. And so we're looking to see how we can integrate that image component so that be it parent, teacher, or student, we're just bringing all these resources into one place. From a deployment strategy, what I do is kind of look at how things sit between kindergarten and grade 12. What I call entry points. We'll just jump through into the next slide here, and it'll give a better explanation. But you know, there's a lot of the key areas in that K-5 environment is field trips, PTSA. At a staff level across district, you're going to have that professional learning that promotes team building when we work with stuff like this. District-wide professional learning, the district, our training days that we host in August. And really one of the key ones here from a district-wide standpoint is being able to connect the administrative building, what we call our educational service center, directly to each school has a really powerful impact. Letting staff there have a lens into what's happening at our district office. We have a lot of clubs with our kids, and those really kick off kind of middle of elementary, and that seems like it was a really great entry point too, to show really the broad scope of work and learning that's happening in Riverview. So I'll just step through real quick here, a couple models of deployment, and then I think Mandy will expand on a little bit more on some yearbook stuff and just how rich of a product Vidagami is. So again, here, what we're going to look at here is just what are the levels of engagement for a particular for a parent, an organization, a club, or something like a yearbook. And one of the things that I've found with my own daughter in grade 10 right now is that as much as I want to be engaged, when those kids kind of step through that 6 through 12 one, you're not so inclined to let you grab that picture. And so what we're looking at here is what are our target areas that we could deploy a solution like Vidagami. So if you look at this here, we're basically, that yearbook has an increasing build of engagement as you progress from K through 12. Sports really kick off in that middle school and has a huge part of the student life. And then clubs, as I said, really kick off late elementary. So this becomes our target area for deployment of a tool like this. So at the elementary level, we're going to focus on yearbook and parent PTSA involvement and contributions. When we step into the middle and the high school, you can really see you've got some entry points that all cross. So it's very powerful to be able to take a tool like Vidagami and find out how to implement. Last thing I'll probably talk about here is the PIC component, privacy, integration, and connection. So when we look at what happens at the district office here in Riverview, what are the components and who are the people we're trying to connect with? And that's going to be the superintendent, our communications office, and then of course our teaching and learning and professional development. Aside from academics at every school, at the elementary level, PTSA is a really strong entry point for contributions. Obviously, yearbook, and then we use an application right now called Seesaw, and we look at, that's really a K2 product, and is there a way we can use a different product that replaces those things? At the middle and high school level, there's a real strong focus on sports, yearbook, and club. And part of my work is taking all of these things. Where are the integration? Where are the connections? Well, if we can use one product and extend it out for a streamlined experience that's consistent, some people might call it vertical alignment. Like, how do we actually get to a place where we're using consistent tools for students K through 12? And yearbook here was a really powerful integration source. And of course, with all of this, the idea is to connect parents to the student learning. And if we can do that while respecting privacy and integrating it into an LMS, that's keeping us, it keeps our sensitive content of our students away from that public-facing environment that so much other social media depends on. So I'm going to hand it over to Mandy now for another polling question.
Great, thank you. Chris shared, Riverview's strategic initiative, to build engagement among their community. And, from my point of view, engagement with parents doesn't start when, you receive your teacher's note about how your son needs help with grade 6 geometry. It starts with engaging that parent in all the great things that are happening at the school. And we're just curious to see or hear what your experience is at your school or district. How would you rate the priority of, building engagement among your students, teachers, and families? Low priority would be that it's not part of your strategic plan, that, maybe your parent association has it all under control. Moderate is it's valuable, but there are other immediate priorities. And important is that you're actually actively looking for programs to strengthen that community. So if you would take a moment and let us know what you think, that would be great.
So, Mandy, in a scenario where you've already rolled out, where Vidagami's live at some buildings, did you consider taking this same poll approach before? And have you noticed an actual change in the engagement level after a year of use?
We've learned a lot over the last few years because depending on how you roll it out as a school, some schools develop a much stronger level of engagement among their families than others. And it has to do with how it is made available to everybody and how it engages everybody in the experience. So our most successful schools have 98%, family engagement. That's incredible to get families engaged in any one thing. And in other schools, the engagement is less, and it's because of the role Vidagami is playing at that school.
Excellent.
Thank you. Okay, so from here then, Chris points out that school yearbooks is the common point of connection for students, parents, and schools from elementary through middle and graduation. And, the school yearbook, in our view, is a tradition. It's been around for as long as modern education. So the desire for school memories isn't new. It's how school experiences and memories have traditionally been captured and shared. The problem today is that our generation of students and families live in a social media world of Instagram and Facebook, and we demand more. We want more digital access. We want more personal content, more interactivity and engagement. And we need to appreciate that the evolution of technology is defining how we communicate and interact. And we see how it's changing the way we teach and how our students learn. And so naturally, our expectations when it comes to how we cherish our school memories and the ultimate of role of yearbooks needs to change. So in the last decade, and we're referencing this as School Memories 1.0 and 2.0, in the last decade, we've seen advances in digital publishing software and on-demand print technologies that's enabling, yearbook production to be faster and more cost-effective. So, really gone are the days where you're laying out, individual school portraits on paper and sending out, a yearbook for production 4 months before the actual school year ends, right? These improvements, while significant, though, they haven't really addressed the fact that the role of school memories has evolved beyond the printed book, because smartphones are now pervasive. And, every smartphone user is a digital photographer. And they're capturing every moment of a student's life and their work. And these moments are inherently building a visual narrative of every student's school experience. And the printed book represents one format for how that school experience is curated and shared. And that's done by, the yearbook team and committee. I think that the next generation of school memories, really promises to provide our schools and our students and families with much more. And this is what we're, calling School Memories 3.0. Because what 3.0 does is it removes the limitations of the printed book format, and it engages the entire community, of students and families into a digital experience that is more personal, more interactive, and more visual. And the collection of media then provides the visual ingredients for reflection, storytelling, and publishing. It feeds into digital portfolios that, every student can use to curate their own, to showcase the best representation of themselves, right? And that's going to be different for an artist as opposed to an athlete. And they feed into publishing software for presentations, as project-based learning becomes, more pervasive. And this media is a powerful means of communications between and among, student, parents, and educators. And I think that's what Chris has very effectively laid out in his diagram. So this is what we believe. We believe that few classes exist today without some element of media in the course of teaching or learning. Oops, 1 second. And it's hard to imagine these days how any teacher is able to engage her class without visuals. that media has become the shorthand to how we interact and communicate, and this is the foundation underlying social media, the basis of Instagram and Facebook. And its power of engagement is in the fact that photos transcend language and culture, allowing them to connect with its audience faster and more emotively than any other language, in the world. So what is Vidagami? What do we offer? We give families a personalized window into their child's school experience. So Chris shared with you, photos of his daughter and all the things that she's involved in at the school. And where every photo tagged by name immediately gets added to the story of that student's life. And every photo tagged by creator adds to the portfolio of that student's work. And where every photo shared, whether that is by a parent, a teacher, or the students themselves, it enriches the school memories for every student in the school. And by centralizing the photos that are being taken throughout the school year, we're helping build a living media portfolio for every student that will empower their ability to reflect, relive, and tell their personal stories through a myriad of tools that today we are the myriad of tools that are available. Today we are supporting access to all the content in Vidagami through Office 365 and integration into Peekaboo yearbooks. And we believe that this is what millennial parents want and what educators, today need. And it's school memories reinvented, and this is what Vidagami is about. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to walk through give you a product overview of Vidagami. And because there's only limited time, I'm only going to talk about the key components. And I'd like to invite you to join our product webinar next week on June 19th at 10 o'clock, where we are going to be able to walk you through the features in more detail. If you look at your screen, we're going to push out a link for registering, to this webinar. But in the meantime, here's what I'd like to focus on. So what is, Vidagami? We are a hub for school memories designed around a private social platform. And our emphasis is on how we organize media in a way that effectively enables your community to leverage it for connecting and communicating. And it starts with unlocking all this content from personal devices, random applications, and hard drives. So, an average school of about 500 kids will upload anywhere upwards of 20 to 30,000 photos a year. And that's not because Vidagami exists, but rather there is now a central place where all this great content can come together. And once it's centralized, the media is organized, and we focus on making it accessible and relevant to every member of your school. And centralizing content starts with tailoring your school's Vidagami site according to your school policies and organizational structure. And the culture of every school is different, so we work with each school to customize Vidagami accordingly. And once this is set up, it's automatically rolled over, year over year. So that means your academic groups, your clubs, your teams that are typically very, standard, just gets replicated. And it means that members just get added, new members are added into those groups each year. And then through the desktop iOS, Android apps, users, we become so accessible to every member of your community. The next step is really what we call intelligent organization. And this is central to, really facilitating how we capture what's meaningful about photos. So at Upload, we automatically tag every photo by school year, by grade and event. The system, detects the faces and provides a drop-down list for users to easily select registered, students and teachers or even, parents, where they where, their faces, detected faces, can be tagged. And then every photo tagged, again, goes into the collection of student life, and every photo tagged by creator goes into the student's collection of their work. And so a project may have multiple creators, but once you've added the names of the creators, it goes into the portfolio of each of those students, and potentially even the teachers. And once the content is tagged, it becomes searchable if the user is granted permission, and available so that it could be used. The result is this: a living media portfolio for every student. I know everyone is looking for this perfect digital student portfolio solution, but I don't believe that exists, because a perfect portfolio for an artist is inherently different than one for an athlete or a scientist or a teacher. What we want to provide are the evidence of learning that empowers them to use the latest and greatest publishing tools to create a portfolio that best showcases them. And a student may have multiple portfolios depending on the program or the work they're applying for. And if you think that in 5 years or even 3 years from now, there might potentially be, an application that doesn't exist today that could benefit from this collection of media, then you want to make sure that it's available for the students to be able to access. And to make creating documents and presentations easy, this integration we've done with Office 365 is phenomenal. We've had, staff and teachers use this add-in into PowerPoint that have come back to say, I've used Word and PowerPoint more in the last couple of months than I have in the last couple of years, because it makes the ability to be able to make these presentations, so easy. And this is actually something I'm going to show you really quick in my demo in a moment. The other part of publishing that we've enabled is integration with yearbook publishing, and this integration with Creator Studio by Peekaboo Yearbooks now allows you to be able to create sets of photos within Vidagami and map it directly into your yearbook ladder. And anyone who's built a yearbook knows that 80% of the work is actually finding the right photos and to be able to go and lay it out in the yearbook for production. Once the yearbook is finalized, a digital version can now be added into your school's library in Vidagami and be accessible to everyone, not only those students and families who opt in to purchase the yearbook, but as we're going to do with Riverview, once this yearbook is produced, a digital version will be added into the library. I'll show you what it looks like in a moment. And for those students and families who want a printed copy, there's always the option to order one. This means there's no longer a reason for, 20 extra yearbooks to sit in the back closet, and all the hard work that the yearbook team puts into producing the yearbook be available only to a small, number of the students and families. It can be available to everybody. So then we talk about really the most important part, the sharing part. And this is the most important part of collecting photos, because what good are photos if they're locked in a digital shoebox and not available to anybody, right? So we strive to provide our schools with the best of private and public sharing. So all current users have access to photos through the school year as they're uploaded into the system through the feeds that Chris showed you. But photos can be easily curated by one or multiple users, and then these sets of photos can be shared via share links and embed code into any HTML website or social media. So, Chris, mentioned that they are using these sets of photos to share into digital signage. And what that means is, your highlight photos of the week from the state championship, basketball game can be shared on the digital screen in front of, the gym, whereas photos from the play from drama can be shared in front of the auditorium. But all of this media resides in one place, and it's organized and easily updated from within Vidagami. This is what I'll show you very quickly. But the content access permission set by the school and the owners of the media is part of what provides the underlying, platform in Vidagami so that it can be effectively shared while respecting everybody's rights and permissions to use that content. So if I'm just going to switch over to a live demo now. And again, please join our product webinar, because they will be, during this product webinar is where you'll see more of the specifics on the features. So one moment, and you can look at your other screen. Okay. Can everybody see my Vidagami Facebook screen?
Looks good, Mandy.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. So when Chris was talking about embedding slideshows, this is, what we're talking about. Actually, one second. I'm showing you our Christmas brunch. So we have Vidagami, for everyone in the company. And here are photos that we've actually created and shared out. What happens is when I go into my album of Christmas brunch, I have the ability now to go and hit shared set. And I would get a share link that allows me to copy and send out as an embedded link via any digital newsletter, or I can copy embed code that can be dropped into a website. What that looks like is, in this case, I'm sharing a set of slides through our Facebook. And when I click on this picture, it opens up in a new browser a slideshow of all the photos that I want to be able to share publicly. Now, the best of public and private sharing means, as an administrator or the communications director, I can go and select photos that build up the slideshow as my highlights reel and share out with everybody I want to make content available to without having access to a Vidagami account. But if I am a member of the community, I can click on Go to Album, and it will immediately take me into Vidagami, where 169 of more photos, can be found of this particular event. And I think this is, really the power of being able to leverage media in storytelling and in engagement, because you have all these photos are getting taken. So engage your community in being part of having more visibility and sharing, what's going on. Not everybody can be at every event. One school said to us that Vidagami is like empowering all our parents out on the soccer field. It's like having, an army of photographers at every event. And that's pretty exciting. So in this case, in Twitter, the same thing has happened with one of our schools, where they embed a slideshow, again, a demo reel of highlights of their event. But what happens is, because I'm not a member of the community, I go to Album, and it opens up, a website, and, I don't have access to any of this content. When this content gets shared, what you'll see is there is no tagging, there is, no indication of who these kids are. They remain anonymous. When you're in the school, you actually have a lot more information about the event, and potentially who is tagged in those photos. And here's another example. And then now I'm going to show you what we could do with publishing. One second. Here's an example of a school we have in LA where once the yearbook has been created, it gets uploaded into the library of the school, and it's available for every member of the school to be able to view and download. Now you can imagine how the yearbook ends up being, the single item that engages your entire community, current and alums. Your alums of the future will come back, to be able to see what is going, all their school memories from their years at the school. And then finally, I think this is part of the most exciting things you can do is access to what you can do using Microsoft Office 365 PowerPoint templates and Word. Within Vidigami, once you install the add-in, the Vidigami photo selector will appear. And you can create, based on sets of photos that you create, you'll be able to pull photos directly from within Vidigami into your PowerPoint presentation. So in this case, if I were to choose these photos here, let's see, artwork, all I have to do is add to page. Now, regardless of what size the content is, some photos are 20 megabytes, some are 10, some are 4. What will ultimately happen is Vidigami dynamically sizes that into the PowerPoint presentation. And then what you do is you apply design ideas. And this magically transforms your presentation into your photos into incredible personalized presentations that you can then use for your whatever narrative you want to be able to build. And this is, absolutely fantastic from leveraging what, PowerPoint can do. We have schools who, give PowerPoint to their kids so that they can use it for portfolio building. And in the case of Word, again, you've got like hundreds of templates. You can create your own school templates. But what it means is I can click on a photo in the newsletter, and I can go into, Vidigami, and I can decide to replace this photo with another one. And it just works. So anybody who has ever worked with media in Word or in PowerPoint can appreciate the value of how media can help enrich this whole publishing experience. So I'm going to stop sharing because I'm going to go back to the slides now. Once you have had a chance to launch Vidigami to your community, what you'll see is, we have insights that show you engagement and of the students and the families who've activated. And finally, this part here is, Chris mentioned governance, which is really the school and district's responsibility to protect student data. So security are the measures the school, takes, and privacy is an individual's right to control access to their personal information. And solution is where Vidigami is really positioned, where we provide the technology and programs that help enforce compliance to the policies that are set. Once we address this underlying data privacy requirement related to media, we get to benefit from all the great ways media enriches our work, and our lives. And at this part, I'm going to go through really fast, and then we can go into Q&A. So this is how we're addressing it in Vidigami, because without this, none of the other features and functionality is possible. One is we give schools optimal control over who has access and the degree of access to each piece of content. We allow every user to give and withhold consent to any piece of media, which means even if a piece of media is uploaded by somebody else in the community, anyone can flag it and indicate why that media should not be shared. As soon as that media is flagged, it is unshared with everybody else in the community. We also enforce preferences for users who want to opt out. So any photo tagged of an opt-out individual is immediately unshared with everyone in the community. This means the administrator now has the ability to be able to go and manage this very sensitive situation with their students and families. And the reality is most families don't want to withhold, their child's school memories from their child, but they just don't want those photos published on social media. So we offer an ability to be able to highlight no media released. And what that means is you simply get an indicator on the bottom right-hand corner of an image so that it tells the school that there's no media release rights, so don't publish this photos in a highlights reel on Twitter or Facebook. Don't share it publicly. And then to further, respect personal use rights, there's a reminder that is messaged out to users who want to download a photo, letting them know that it's for personal use only. And finally, owners of a photo may add watermark to an image to disable download and to protect it from screen, captures. And this can apply to professional photography for, graduation photos or what have you, for example. And then copyrights can be added to credit, right, the owner of the media. Phew, I think I'm done. I think I've covered most of what Vidagami does. So again, please join the webinar on the 19th, and we can go through more of the features and functionality, in detail. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, Chris?
No, thanks, man. It was I always enjoy watching through because I learn something more about Vidagami every time you do the demo. So it's very exciting.
Okay, well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We are, I think the next step for us is to take a look at questions that might have come in from the audience. So I'm just going to switch over and have a look and see if there's some questions we can answer. Let's see. So let me start with this question. What makes Vidagami different from most social platforms? And please send in your questions, and we'll answer them in order of them coming in to the system. So what makes Vidagami different from most social platforms? Okay, I think I'm going to answer questions related specifically to the Vidagami, and then I'm going to defer to Chris for anything that's related to school. So Vidagami is different than most social platforms by virtue of the fact that we're designed for schools. It's inclusive, but private at the same time. So only members of your school community are invited to join. We're founded on protecting the privacy of student data, and we're purposeful in that we are connecting the school community through the life and work of each student. And this is the meaningful content that is of interest to every member of the school community. We have a question here. I would like to hear more about how Chris plans to roll out Vidagami in his schools. Which schools first? Students, teachers, and parents. So I think you had some slides on that, but if there's a easy way for you to reiterate, that would be great, Chris.
Yeah, you bet, Mandy. So right now we are, the first exercise for us is really to be getting out to each school and capturing what's happening in the buildings. We want people to land there and see it. So we have already started a rollout. We've got a handful of teachers, a couple different schools. And so they kind of spread that word internally. So it'll be a district-wide launch, not necessarily a school first, but to the second part of the question, student, teachers, parents. We're going to start with the teachers, connect the students in, and then invite the parents. So that's our plan as of right now. Thanks for the question.
Okay. Another question. Can you tell us about how and where Vidagami data is stored? So I can answer that. So Vidagami data is stored in Canada, and it fulfills the requirements under the EU's GDPR, so General Data Protection Regulation. And Canada as a country has been awarded, what they call adequacy status by the EU, meaning that it's acceptable. It fulfills, very stringent data protection, policies. There's only about a dozen countries in the world that have been recognized to provide this level of data protection. We have another question here. Are there examples of Vidagami being used to create a sort of high schooler's CV for internship applications or job applications using media from the student's schoolwork? Is this something that is easy to do? So at this time, we haven't collected any specific examples. What I have heard, schools say is that the repository of media makes it easy for the students and the teachers to be able to tap into content which they otherwise wouldn't have in order to build out their personal portfolios. Okay, and maybe one other question. How long does it take to get Vidagami up and running at a school? So your school's Vidagami site can be turned around, very quickly in under a week. Usually it's the consultation period where multiple people at a school gets involved, and this takes time in order to get everybody in alignment with what they would like to, how they would like to see Vidagami set up, and also to set the policies around media that they want to put in place. Once those decisions are made, being able to turn around and turn up a Vidagami site is actually quite quick. All right. Are there any other, if there are no other questions, we are, very close to our hour, and I think we can probably, start wrapping it up. Any other thoughts, Chris?
I nothing off the top of my head here, Mandy. It's looking good.
Mandy, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Ferris. I can hear you.
Thank you, and thanks to Chris for the great presentation, demo, and storytelling embedded over the past hour you shared with our audience. It's amazing to have an innovative partner of Microsoft like Vidagami, bringing technology to real life, as we've just seen in the story of Riverview District with this solution. Built on the safe and secure Microsoft Cloud, Azure. With this, I'd like to thank our engaged attendees and encourage you to keep the conversation going via the social handles of Vidagami and Microsoft Education. Looking forward to having you attending more of Microsoft Education webinar series later this summer and into the new school year. And this concludes our webinar. Have a great one, everybody.